I really don't know how we started though. Like, it's not like the intro. I think it's really crooked. It didn't seem crooked when I was standing there, but
everything else is really crooked, so it might be fine.
we used to be very well off, and now we're comfortable. Like low end of comfortable. We didn't even finish the bottle of wine.
And
rich people dreaming. Rich people dreaming. Rich people dreaming.
hi YouTube, we just want to introduce ourselves. I'm one half of Two Broke Gays. I'm Jordan.
I'm Kyle.
And we just wanted to take this opportunity to introduce ourselves and kind of explain and make a long story short about how we ended up where we're at right now and how we bought this amazing double wide that wasn't so amazing a few years ago that you've seen in the trailer that Kyle posted last week. So Kyle, I'll let you begin maybe with the beginnings, and you can let everyone know where we were at in spring of 2020.
Yeah, basically we had been living on the East Coast. I was working for a railway. Jordan was a realtor. We had renovated a couple houses out there. We were into real estate a lot. They got rid of my department at my job, so I no longer had a job. And we basically sat down and decided we didn't want to stay on the East Coast. We wanted to take the opportunity and go somewhere different.
We're very adventurous people, and I think we felt at the time like Kyle felt really upset that he had lost his position within his company. But I think it was probably a blessing in disguise, because at that point in time, I remember you feeling very stuck.
Yeah.
And me feeling very...
I hated the job.
Yeah, and to be completely honest with you, I wasn't, a huge fan of being a realtor. It's something that I tried out, and I'm glad that I tried it, but at the end of the day, I wasn't happy either, and I just felt like we're not from New Brunswick, and we just wanted a change, and we wanted an adventure.
Yeah.
So it just so happens that when we decided that we were going to be moving out west, we actually just got back from a trip with a whole bunch of friends, and it was so much fun. And then we ended up packing up, I'd say like not all of it, but like a quarter of our stuff.
All the important things we packed up.
The important things, because like we
left all our furniture.
Well, I guess we should probably explain that we still had a house there.
Yeah.
That we basically bought a duplex that we renovated, and we had both parts of it rented out.
Yeah.
So we left all of our furniture and our bed and everything, and all we really took were the clothes on our back and some keepsakes.
Yeah,
and
not even
things.
all of them, just the essentials. We filled like a 5x8 U-Haul trailer and stuck it on Jordan's car and took off. And then we made it to Montreal, and that's when COVID started.
So we were in Montreal as the toilet paper fiasco thing was happening here.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we were visiting our friends JJ and Janel, and we actually needed toilet paper, and we ran out to the store for it, and there was nothing left. And I remember going to a few different stores, and there were not being any at all. So I think we found some eventually.
Yeah, eventually. And then we left there. We went to Ontario to our family's places. And then that's when the lockdown like really started. So we were kind of trapped there for 111 days. We were there.
I mean, it was great. Actually, at the end of the day, it's the first time that we've spent spring in Ontario in probably, 8 years. So it's nice to, kind of be able to spend time with family and watch all of, everything in Ontario come to bloom and come to life. And then we decided we needed to go. Right. So we
love everyone there.
Yeah.
Don't think we don't.
Yeah.
They all tried to convince us to stay. They were like, it's a sign, you need to stay. And we were like, no, not at all. We need to get the hell out of here.
Yeah. Like, I think like it's weird because normally you and I take signs, and I think I remember thinking to myself a few times, this might be a sign that maybe we should stay. But fast forward 4 years later, I'm really glad that I didn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we had plans to come here, and we did a lot of research, and we had an Airbnb booked for a month, and we had a deposit on it that we we're gonna lose if we didn't come to
Yeah.
Calgary. But anyways, the Airbnb host ended up leaving the deposit on our account so we could use it as long as we booked her place when
Yeah.
we eventually got here. So we left.
July 2nd.
So we
Times.
again didn't really have everything with us. Actually, a really important part of the story is that you and your father went back to New Brunswick during COVID to pick up
What we left.
because we figured because we were in Ontario and not out in Alberta yet, that it would be easier for Kyle to go back and get more stuff. So him and his dad did a trip to Moncton to pick up more of our stuff.
Yeah.
That trip was more sentimental items, things that wouldn't fit in the 5x8 trailer that my crossover pulled. So you went and got like tires and tools and
Yeah.
Lego and toy
No,
cars.
I forgot my Lego.
Oh,
I'm
you
still
forgot
really
your
upset
Lego.
about the Lego. 'Cause the Lego was in the basement of that house. And I don't know where it's at. But
Sorry to
yeah, that was my
open
childhood Lego
old wounds.
collection, and it's
Yeah.
gone. And a
Yeah.
lot of fun for antique furniture's gone. We lost a lot of cool
Yeah,
stuff. But
yeah. But
that's neither here nor
it ended
there.
up really working out really well that you were able to go back with your dad
Mhm.
though and get more stuff. And it just so happened that spring that we were in Ontario, Kyle's parents, they built a huge garage with the loft above. So we helped them finish that loft.
Yep.
And we were able to
All our stuff.
we were able to put a lot of our stuff into there, which some of our stuff is still in
Yeah,
there.
there's a few things left. 4 years later? 4 years later, yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
So then we actually took some time the last week of June where we really went through the stuff that was in Ontario, and we're like, okay, again, we don't have a huge trailer that
This
we're
time we
able
had a
to
6x12 that we bought.
so a little bit bigger.
Yeah. But again, we had a weight restriction. His car's a SUV. It's not made
It's
to
a
pull lot.
crossover.
Yeah. So we had to really go through. So we gave away a lot of stuff. We sold a few things. We put some things in storage at my parents' house, and then we took like the absolute essentials, but we got to take a few extra things.
Yeah.
Which I was kind of happy about because like a lot of my tools I wasn't originally gonna be able to bring right away, but I was able to bring.
Yeah, and it just so happened, I guess this is a good transition piece. So it's amazing that Kyle was able to bring his tools because we got to Calgary and, you know, most workplaces were still closed. So not a lot of people were hiring. Everyone was still laid off. Everyone was just collecting CERB.
Yeah.
So, you know, Kyle took it upon himself when we first got here to, you know, find work. He's very talented in a lot of different home renovation aspects. So like, you know, you really can do anything.
Yeah, well, I kind of grew
There's
up with a
not-
father that was like, why would you pay someone to do something you can do? So we built everything, and I like helped the neighbor tile my parents' kitchen floor when I was like 16, and I painted their whole house and built bathrooms and hot tub rooms and decks and docks and sheds and everything else. So I've always been like that. I renovated all the stuff we had out east, built a lot of decks out east.
I mean,
So-
well, you renovated our first house
Yeah,
over the course of 6 years, but like really like from top to bottom.
it was a great house. I might put like a picture. or
You
two
probably
in there,
should,
'cause
yeah.
It was a really great house.
And then our second house
Was-
we did.
A nightmare. I feel like that's where it started.
I mean, it
That's where this
it wasn't.
started.
I don't know. Like, it wasn't that much of a nightmare.
I know, but everyone else that saw it didn't like it. But for
I
some
don't
reason, we
know.
both
I
walked
loved
in
it.
and
I
we were
still
like-
love it.
Yeah, we both knew that it was like the
Yeah.
place.
So,
But it was. I mean, I guess you could live in it, but like I wouldn't live in it. I'll put it that way.
no, I would have been fine living in it. I just needed like a little scrub and a little clean. But yeah. So, anyways, like we did actually hire someone. We were just at a point in our lives where like we didn't
We were
have a lot of
busy.
time. Like Kyle
we were
was still
going to
working.
Europe.
Yeah, we were going to Europe. I was still working as a realtor and I was just getting busy and we didn't really have the time to renovate everything ourselves. So we had decided that we were going to hire someone to do it, which I know probably took Kyle a lot of time and a lot of hard thinking.
Yeah, I kept it
So I know
like
that.
I made them do like all the structural, change the windows, any like major changes, and just get the shell done. And then I went in and did like all the kitchens, all the
They did
painting. I laid all the
60%
flooring.
of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it
So
was
we
like all the
still
tough stuff.
We still had about 40% of the work that we had to do ourselves.
Yeah, And at that time we had a fifth wheel at a campground, so we were living in that. We did rent a house
Good
for the
point.
winter.
Mm-hmm.
So we were kind of like mobile. Our stuff has been in storage. We had already kind of started this like gypsy lifestyle that we kind of adapted, it seems.
That would have been like what, spring of 2019. So now that's 5 years ago.
Yeah. So yeah, anyways, we got here. I started working for a few different people.
So
doing
Kyle brought us
renos.
tools. That's where we were going with this.
Yes.
And he was able to find work, thankfully, and he was able to jump right in. And a lot of people during COVID had extra money to spend because they weren't traveling and they
wanted to update their house.
You jumped right into that, like almost right away. I'd say like we got here first week of July, and I'd say like by the last week of July, early August, you were working.
Yeah, and it was like kind of through a real estate company, and they were doing like, they were flipping houses, they were doing rent to owns that they were updating. It
was right up your alley because you're like, I've already done 2 houses, so like let's try it. Like, and at this point you're working for other people, so you're getting paid and you're enjoying what you're doing.
Yeah, it was going good. And then we had moved into a townhouse when we moved here in Chestermere, because we basically decided that in about a day.
Yeah,
like we got here the next day, we picked that house, and then like a week later we had moved into it.
Yeah.
We had to cancel our Airbnb. So we got that place, and it was fine. It was great. We both liked Chestermere. It had a lake. We both grew up on lakes.
Yeah, it's super cute.
Yeah, it's nice, but it's very like family oriented. It's like big cookie cutter houses with families and children, and not a lot goes on there. I mean, you're close to the city. You're only 20 kilometers from downtown. It was great, but I don't know. Come February, I had a bit of a mental breakdown, I guess, and I just like freaked out, and I was like, we decided we were moving here. We were living downtown, and I want to live downtown, and we can't stay in this house. We need to sell this house, and we need to move downtown. So we decided that February 8th, and by March 12th, we were moving our stuff into a condo in East Village, downtown Calgary, which was about 800 square feet. So my whole goal this entire time that we've been together is to reduce the amount of square footage that Jordan needs to live in. Because when we first met, it was like 2,000 minimum. And
it wasn't
we went
even
all the way
so
down
much
to
that
800.
We actually kind of talked about this later on, and we realized the reason that I wanted a bigger space compared to Kyle wanting a smaller space is just how we both grew up.
Yeah.
So Kyle comes from a family of 4, and his parents built their own house in the early 90s, and like it was a 4-level back split, and it was probably
it had like 3 living rooms.
2,500 square feet, right?
Yeah, at least. Yeah, it was stupid.
And I grew up in a family of 5 in a small townhouse. I grew up in kind of cramped quarters, so like in my adult life, I'm like, well, I'd like more space, even though it's just the 2 of us. We do have a dog. Well, we have 2 dogs now. We'll get to that. But at that point, we had 1 dog, and I just don't want cramped quarters. I just want space. And Kyle is like always trying to downsize and trying to get me.
I'm like, I love tiny homes. I want to live in a school bus one day and travel around and see everything, which may happen.
And yeah, so going back to what Kyle said, he got me into an 800 square foot condo downtown. And
I mean, it was a beautiful condo, so it was easy.
I think that helps, like when your surroundings are beautiful and you start realizing it's about quality, not quantity. I think that really
it's still hard though. Like we had only been here 8 months when we moved into the condo, and we had accumulated so much furniture that we had
during COVID we just went on Marketplace and we found,
and we had like a 3-story townhouse, and it had a lot of space, so we had filled it with furniture, and then none of it fit in the condo, so we had to sell all of it. And then like our storage unit was jam-packed, but we made it work. And we lived there for the year. We had a year lease at the time, and then when we got about, when we move in, April 1st, it was November.
Well, okay.
2nd? No. 2nd?
Yeah, okay, so we moved in to the condo.
We'll get to the point now. Long story short.
We moved into the condo middle of March, and then again that whole summer, so much fun. Kyle was working as a contractor and helping people renovate their homes and doing a lot of work for different people. And early November,
Well, no, it was October when I worked on. Are we talking about the original mobile home?
No, that's what I mean though. Like,
Yeah.
So the first
It was in the fall I started a new job.
The first week of November, Kyle's already working at this house outside of
It
Calgary.
was like an hour southeast of here on a ranch, like in the plains, just
Like,
horses
in the
and fields
plains.
for miles. And there was just this like mobile home with an addition that some farmer had that his son had lived in. His son was a bull rider, and he had finally bought a house. So they sold it, and the real estate company I was working for was renovating it to turn into a horse Airbnb, because that's a whole thing I didn't know about.
Yeah.
Welcome to the West.
Yep.
And so I've been working on it for like a month, and it was kind of getting to the point where it was looking really good, and like it was like the perfect amount of space. And I think just like being that it was out in the middle of nowhere, like I liked it, so I wanted to show Jordan what it was like, because we had never that's a lie. We had rented like a mobile home for a week once. And we thought it was great.
We did as an Airbnb right before we went to Europe. We didn't have a place to live because we were renovating our second house in Moncton, and
we did like it.
We rented an Airbnb for, I think it was like 8 or 9 days. It was a mobile home. Shout out to oh God, what's the mobile home park they're called?
It's something
Pine something. Pinecone.
Pinecone, Pine
Glen. Glen. Anyways,
woohoo,
no, I like.
Yeah, and we knew a lot. We went. A lot of people own places there. Friends of ours, Ashley and Josh, rented there.
Yeah.
Like we had been around them a lot, and we almost bought one like as a second property at one point. But I was advised by my mortgage broker to put that money on debt instead of buying something that could pay down my debt. Again, you're in your 20s, you don't know, and they also don't know. But anyways, moving along.
Yeah, so it was the first week of November, and I remember I had a few days off of work.
And they paid nothing for this house, was kind of the whole thing. Because I was like, they paid nothing for it. You need to see what it's like. I can't believe this stuff exists around here.
Yeah, and so we get up and we make the drive. It was about an hour southeast of Calgary. It was a nice sunny November day, and I remember going to this place with Kyle, and then getting there, and he didn't really say much to me at first. He was just kind of like, oh yeah, here's where I'm working. Went inside, and I started looking at the renovations he was doing in there. It looked really good at that point.
Pretty great.
And I was like, well, like, then of course my mind starts going, and then, a half hour goes by, and I start asking Kyle questions. I'm like, well, how much did they pay for this place? And he's like, well,
it was something stupid.
It was like
$30,000.
It was it was like not a lot. I remember it being
and we did it on like a shoestring budget too. Like
the renovations.
They barely gave me any money to do anything, but I mean it worked because that's what I do. I love doing that. Yeah.
So then, anyways, we had a whole day there. Kyle worked. I kind of just like cuts around. I got to explore like the property, and I kind of walked through the ranch a little bit. And on our way home, I just went on Realtor and was like, I'm going to put in mobile homes, like, in the Realtor app, how there's filters. So I'm like, I'm going to go, all of Calgary, mobile homes, up to 100,000 at that point.
Yeah.
Because Kyle and I, actually at this point had sold our house in New Brunswick. The second house, our duplex, we sold, and we can get more into details about that later. But basically, for what we had paid for it, and then what we had sold it for because of the COVID market in Moncton, we almost doubled our money. So we had, about $100,000. We had money in the bank, and I think that's why my mind was kind of in that place. I was like, well, we do have money. It's not like we have to get a mortgage. So I went on Realtor, put in filters, found 2 properties in all of Calgary. This is November 2021. 2 properties came up in Calgary under 100,000. So there was a parcel of land that was listed for $1.
Yeah, from the city, because it was going to be auctioned.
So that obviously, I went through that, and I was like, well,
and that obviously probably sold for like $1 million.
So not gonna happen, right? Like, what is that? So then this other place came up, and it was listed at 15,000. And I remember, my first initial thing is to scroll down and look at like the days on the market, like the days it's been listed for, and I think at this point it's at like, I think it was like 150 days.
Yeah, it was a lot. And like, keep in
Like-
mind, we go on Realtor a lot because Jordan having been a realtor and us at the time,
just having
like,
a general interest in it.
Yeah, we loved looking at houses. We like seeing how the market moves and everything. So we're on it pretty often, but that was the first time you'd ever really searched those criterias. And that, so this was a Friday night.
Yeah.
When you found it. And he showed it to me, and I was like, there's no way there's something for sale for $15,000 in the city. Because like, we're in the city.
We're in Calgary. Like,
We
we're
had never been over here. We had never seen this park in person, but we knew where it was.
Yeah, just from, there's a really like, we live really close to a really famous park here in Calgary. We're really close to Bowness Park. So anyone that's from Calgary knows where that is. And when
Yeah, and we had gone skating there. We had been there many times.
Yeah. So we've been over here, but we didn't know like this mobile home park was here. So essentially, I started looking at pictures. I think there was like maybe 10 pictures.
They were all bad.
And they were all bad pictures. And then
but like, you could tell that it wasn't falling down. It just was abandoned.
And then basically,
and it said it was unlivable.
In the description, it said like mobile home on a one of the nicest lots
Modular
in
home.
Greenwood Village, which is the name of our mobile home park. And it said, great lot opportunity. House is currently listed as is, where is, unlivable.
Yeah. Like, the plan was, if no one bought it, the park was going to tear it down. But they wanted to give someone the option to tear it down and move in a new one, I guess.
I mean, it's one of the best lots in here for sure.
Really
so I
is,
think
yeah.
that
You'll
is
see.
at the end of the day, like what they were trying to do. They're like, pay the $15,000, get rid of the house, and then this is your lot.
Yeah.
I messaged the realtor. Shout out to Janel.
We love you.
And cheers. And we, I remember her getting back to me pretty quickly and just saying, yeah, I'll meet you there.
Yeah, she's like on it.
Feel free to walk inside. I'm not going in there.
The door's not locked.
I'll meet you there.
The door didn't close, actually.
Tomorrow, if you want. If that's not too early. And I said, well, no, like, that's perfect. We want to go take a look at it.
You found it Friday.
Okay.
We drove over here Saturday to see, because we didn't even know what the park was like. So we were like, if it's super sketchy, we're not even going to bother. We drove through and it was nice and it's large and we liked it. So you messaged her while we were here.
Mm-hmm.
And then she said, I'll meet you there tomorrow morning.
Which would have been Sunday.
Yeah. So we walked through it. The great thing about Janelle is that she renovates mobile homes a lot. She was actually working on one at the time. So it was great because we had a really good conversation. We had a good conversation about it and what needed to be done. And basically, like, the bones were good. So it's a modular home. It's not a mobile home, technically. It's basically like a prefab. So the two pieces go together, but it's built traditionally like a normal house. So it's got 2x4 construction. Everything's pretty much normally like a house, other than it has no basement. It's just sitting on blocks.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only difference.
I guess that's where the modular comes into.
Yeah, so it was in good shape, other than it had been abandoned for a while. The roof was leaking.
It was abandoned for 2 years.
Some of the rafters had broken because they had rotted under the water. Because in the wintertime, like, they just were soaked all the time. Like, the windows were shit.
You could hear every single time you were inside.
Yeah, the floor was very spongy in like half of the house. The one half is in really decent shape. The other half, where it leaked, like 90% of it, the floor was finished, and most of the wall and a lot of the ceiling was finished. But like, looking at it, I realized for what you're paying, you're getting a lot of house for how much you're investing, and it wouldn't be that much more to bring it back around to like a perfect shell, and then you could just go from there. And we were looking at what they were selling for, which at the time, like a double wide like ours was about 130,000.
I'd say probably around there.
Like, finished. So we were like, okay, like, it's probably only gonna be about 50,000 to finish this thing. It would work. It will work, is basically what we said.
Yeah.
So that was Sunday. We put in our offer Monday.
Yeah, we met Janelle at Timmy's. and Kyle and I had went home, and Kyle, you're gonna realize, you know, in our vlogs, he's a numbers person, and he's into numerology, and he's on a spiritual journey. And at that point, he wanted to offer 12,222.
This two's a great number.
Yeah, and you can get it in
No,
more
it's
of that
fine.
later. But
Look it up.
by the way, we bought it from the bailiff.
Yeah.
It was a bailiff who was selling it, not even the actual person, because it was abandoned for 2 years. So we gave her the bank draft, and she did say there was one other person that was looking at it, putting in another offer as well, and that she would get back to us.
Yeah.
So like we, left Tim Hortons, and we were like, well, if it was meant to be, it was meant to be, and if not, we'll take that as a sign to run away, and not look back. And then it wasn't even that much longer later, like a few hours, or maybe around supper, Janelle called us and she told us that it was ours.
Basically, it went really fast because it was abandoned. We bought it from the bailiff, so it was like, it's yours. There were no keys because the doors were unlocked. Close. So basically, like that weekend, I showed up here and started tearing paneling off the wall, and then we found out that they hadn't finalized everything, because I guess there was like all these
I feel like from
paperwork.
I remember being a realtor, and like when you're dealing with a third party like a bailiff, who's representing, I think at that point they were representing the park, right? Because
I think so. I don't know.
Anyways, we're not sure exactly.
I should have asked Janelle about this, but anyway.
Yeah. We'll get back to you on
So anyways,
this.
long story short, we started tearing it apart, and we didn't technically fully own it yet.
But we thought we did.
Yeah. So she called me. It was funny. I just finished tearing an entire wall down, and then she called. She was like, "By the way, it's not finished." And I was like, "Well, I'm doing this." And she's like, "Okay, we'll just leave it as it is, and then I'll tell you when you can come back." Which was 2 days later, so that was fine. So anyways, there we are. So now we own it. It was quite disgusting, to be honest.
Really gross.
We just wanted to strip it, so we stripped it down to nothing, basically, right back to the studs, pulled all the insulation. We tore half the floor up. You're gonna see all these different things that we did, but yeah, basically we got it for an amazing price.
12,222.
I always joke because for a while I worked at a garden center, and they had a patio set, which was a table and 6 chairs, and it was $15,000. And
all teak.
Yeah, and I was sitting there one day with the owner, and we were talking, and I just said, I can't believe people buy this furniture. And he was like, "Well, what do you mean?" And I was like, "I just can't get over the price." And he's like, "Well, it's quality. It has a lifetime warranty, blah, 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 blah." And he's going on and on. And I was like, "This table set costs more than my house." And he was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah,
yeah.
I paid less for my house than people pay to sit and eat dinner in their backyard."
Yeah, it's funny. We often times, when we're telling people our story and we tell people what we're doing, people ask, they're like, "Well, is it rude to ask how much you paid?"
Yeah.
And I like to play a little game with them, and I'll say, "Well, how about you guess?" And a lot of the time I get north of 100,000, "Oh, you must have paid 110 or 115 or 120. And I'm like, "No, literally $100,000 less. We paid $12,222, and
cheaper than a used car."
And people are just shocked, and I think they're like, "Oh my god, that's amazing! Why didn't we do this?" Or "Holy crap, are there any more?"
Yeah.
And because of the state of the real estate market right now in all of Canada, but especially Calgary,
blowing up.
There's nothing. This was that was the perfect time for us. I remember seeing 2 or maybe 3 listings after ours.
There was one right after us for $9,000.
There was one for $9,000
because we called everyone we knew, and we're like, "Can you buy a $10,000 house and we'll renovate it for you?" And then everyone's like, "Well, you just moved into one, finish yours." And I'm like, "No, let's make some fucking money. We'll finish ours later."
Yeah.
I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, and then there was another one that was listed for 15, and then another one for maybe 15
30?
or 16, and then another one for 30, and then
And
since
then
then
it stopped.
It stopped. And then there are mobile homes for sure that are in disarray right now in our park and that still need to be.
Oh, like they're almost at the state that ours is in.
Yeah, and the thing is like they're being listed for like 95,000 now. You know, almost 100,000.
Yeah, it's
so like at that point,
dramatically.
you're not only like it's a more than a commitment. Like
I mean, even now, like so keep in mind, like you will see at some point, but like we're not near done right now. It's comfortable, we live in it, but like we don't have ceilings, we don't have floors, we don't have a kitchen, like technically. I mean, we have a stove, we have a dishwasher, we have a sink, we have a fridge, we use workbenches as our countertops. Yeah.
super fun. I love it.
Yeah, like it's great. We're comfortable. We're not in a rush, you know, but we're getting there. But even then, like all in as of right now, including buying the house. So like when you talk about we bought the house, all new windows and doors, all new insulation, all the new drywall, all new plumbing, everything that we've done up until now, I think we're probably around $30,000.
I think we might be a little bit higher.
Well, yeah, if we add in the deck now,
maybe like
else.
we're thinking, like I'm thinking more like 35 to 40.
No, I don't think so. I kept all the receipts too. I have like a freezer bag full of every receipt from everything we've ever bought for this house, including this gazebo that we're sitting under. Like everything that we buy since we've lived here that goes towards the house, I have. So at some point, God knows when I have time, we'll like sit and add it up, and then we'll get an actual total. Because I mean, like I feel like two broke gays, it's kind of like two broke girls. So like maybe if we had the cha-ching running total, at the end of every video, right?
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
So we might need to get there.
Yeah, we should probably get there.
We picked that name. I don't remember how. When we bought it, we decided we were going to videotape everything, which we didn't do a great job at, but like. We recorded a lot of the tear apart. There's a lot of stuff you've missed, but we'll fill you in with pictures and current video and like explain things.
I feel like I need to give a shout out because I feel like we're gonna have to go back and check out, but I'm pretty sure it was Janel.
It might have been
who helped us come up with that name. So thank you, Janel. That's awesome. We love it, and it works just because at this point in our life, going back to kind of what we were talking about before, when Kyle lost his job and I left being a realtor and we were moving up to Calgary, we were in a really bad financial position.
Make it sound so bad.
Well, no.
I just mean, like, we used to be very well off and now we're comfortable. Like low end of comfortable.
I wouldn't even say it's about that. It's just, we're just not, you know, in the same financial position that we were in before. And
okay, well then I guess technically we should be talking about the fact that we bought this place cash.
Yeah.
And then we made a decision. So the night we moved in,
yes,
it was
that's important.
March 31st, 2022?
2022, yeah.
Yeah, so just over 2 years ago. The night we moved in, we finished moving everything over. At that time, we literally had no interior walls at all. It was just 2x4s. We did have a bathtub and a toilet and a kitchen sink.
Yep.
That's all we had.
The essentials.
We had no like bathroom vanity. We didn't even have a mirror. When you laid in our bed, you could see out the front door. Like everything was wide open. But it was kind of like we ran out of time and we needed to move in. So we moved in. We got everything moved in. We rushed back here to get here for like midnight or whatever it was, and we both had the idea. We drove separate routes and we both had the idea to stop and pick up wine. So we walked in and we had ordered food and we had wine and we had like our furniture and we hadn't even set up our bed.
It was a cold, rainy night too, and I remember
it being windy,
so damp, you know, which it just like added to like the ambiance. It just felt like it was our first night in here and we're like, damn. We're leaving our beautiful downtown condo and now we're like sitting in this like
shell
quarter.
Like we had areas without insulation
house.
In them. Like only the back half of the house had been insulated, and again, no interior walls, no doors, no nothing. And we decided it had been a long day. We were gonna have a bath because we couldn't shower.
Yeah.
So I filled up the bathtub and I'm sitting in the bathtub. Jordan's sitting on the bed behind me, but he can see me because we have no walls. And we were talking, and I said, the really cool thing is that everything that we're looking at, we own. Because in every other house, you have a mortgage, so you don't technically own it. You're just paying a mortgage. Like the bank owns it, you're paying for it until your.
A lot of
mortgage is
people
paid
even
off.
rent their furniture nowadays.
Yeah.
So like half the time you're sitting on a couch that you're making payments
Most
for.
people like never own their vehicle outright. They lease or
Yeah.
you know what I mean. So I had never owned a vehicle outright because I would buy a new one every 3 years. So I was always just making payments. So it was kind of like it hit me, and I realized that we owned everything. Everything that we could see was ours, and it didn't belong to anybody else. So we kind of made a pact at that moment that everything that we did on the house, we had to pay for. We weren't going to borrow any money to do anything. We were going to pay for everything outright.
It had to come off. It had to come out of our debit account.
Yeah,
like nothing on
no
a credit
credit
card.
at all. Not
Yeah.
even like to get supplies. Like we had to pay for everything outright.
Yeah.
And then that way we knew that no matter what happened, we owned everything. No one could ever take it away from us. So we had shelter. We had a home. And
Which is a really good feeling, actually.
yeah,
It's
and then we knew
crazy.
like one day when we get to
that
sell
feeling
it,
that we
every
had.
single dollar that we sell it for is going to be ours.
That
We don't
feeling that
have
I
to
had,
pay
like
off a
sitting there knowing
mortgage.
someone can't take my home away from me because I lost my job or, missing a payment. Like,
Yeah,
you always have shelter and
yeah, it's ours.
it's ours. Yeah.
And no one can take it.
Cheers.
Good luck. Try. And then just to add a funny note, right after that, I drained the tub. Jordan got in, went to fill it. The hot water tank didn't have enough hot water. And I ended up spending 2 hours boiling a kettle in the hallway and pouring it into the bathtub.
I
so
got
you could have a
I
bath.
got like the bath to a point like where I could like get in. The water wasn't covering me fully, but at least like I could like lay there and it kind of be half decent. And then Kyle felt so guilty, and he's like, you know what? I'll just heat water up for you in the kettle and keep running, cold water to fill it up. But then I'll add some hot water with the kettle. So eventually, I had a nice warm bath, but
Yeah,
it
3 a.m.
took about like 2 or 3 hours.
And that was our first experience of what became this house.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah, maybe we should end this video here.
Well, yeah, we can't because there's too much.
Yeah.
Like the next one you'll see will be about like the first weekend in here and tearing things apart, and then
Yeah.
it'll carry on from there, and then we'll update you on where we're like currently sitting at some point.
Because
as
we've
well.
come a long way. It's been 2
Yeah.
years.
And there's a long way to go, and now we're kind of at
Yeah.
the fun part where everything that we do is actually going to make it like
It's like mostly cosmetic
finished.
now at this point.
Yeah.
Everything
even the
that
yard,
needed
like
to be
we have
done.
gardens, now
is
we have
done.
a fence,
And we just need to make it look pretty. And
we have decks,
yeah.
we have gardens.
And we have a new dog.
We do have a new dog. We got another dog.
So
'cause
we
why
have 2
not?
dogs now.
And a cat.
And we have a cat. But we always had the cat.
I know. Earlier you didn't even mention the cat, so I'm just reminding you we do have a cat.
Yeah.
And yeah, here we are. And we're sitting outside, and ironically we were getting ready to film this and the wildfire smoke rolled in. And it's what day is it? May 11th?
May 11th.
May 11th, and we already have wildfire smoke. So it's going to be a long summer, we imagine.
I just hope that the rains make their way to Alberta this year in BC, and we had a really dry winter, so it's gonna be an interesting summer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, we need
are,
more
now we're
moisture.
blabbering. We need moisture, but actually I don't want rain, so I don't know how we're gonna figure that one out. Because that's why I love living here. It never rains.
Yeah. Anyways, well, thanks
Yeah.
for listening to
We
us.
didn't even finish the bottle of wine.
And no,
So-
we're only halfway through.
Because when we
so-
started this, I was drinking a lot, and I figured like if people
Yeah.
start counting how many times they take a sip, it's gonna be.
I
bad.
know it's hard not to, like, when you're letting the other person
And
talk
these
and you're listening.
lights.
I mean, I think it's just natural.
I feel
know,
like
to-
it should have been sitting like there, like a little
Well,
bit lower.
A little bit late now.
I
so.
don't know. It's dark.
All right. Anyways, well, we'll
It's
see you in the
been
next
fun.
one.
Yeah, they'll get more fun after this.
Cheers.
But we just figured we'd catch you up.
Okay, go end it.
You end it.
I don't know
You're
how.
like, I don't know how.
That's what's going on.
Oh, I was just removing the dryer vents, and then the whole floor kind of came up. You can see.
Nice.
We had a water leak.
I say you just leave the floors as is.
It's perfect. We're moving in tomorrow, so we gotta just clean up a little
We're
bit.
just sweep.
It's apparently Liz's first day on the job at AdMax. Super sweet Australian lady though.
I like her accent.
Son of a fucking bitch!